Subscribe to this podcast to get exclusive access to the after show Shooting the Breeze. So today we have Bonnie Milne on, and she is a classical pianist in Ontario, Canada here. Nice to have someone from Canada on. I've been
Yeah.
interviewing a lot of Americans, so it's really, really nice.
Oh, yay, Canada.
So why don't you start out by just telling us a little bit about yourself and a little bit more about what you do?
Okay, I grew up in a small sort of northern central town in Ontario, and I was very lucky because I was surrounded by such natural beauty. And my parents sort of instilled in me the importance of being out in nature and the appreciation that we should have for nature.
Mhm.
So I very much enjoyed my childhood in a small town. And after that, I started taking piano lessons when I was about 9 years old. And at that time, I actually had a very strict teacher. And she was teaching me the Royal Conservatory method. And I did learn a great deal from her, thankfully, even though sometimes it was a bit stressful. Then I went off to universities to study music as well and became a teacher and started teaching music in schools. And then on top of that, I was teaching private piano and voice lessons for many, many years. And then now I actually work at our Board of Education and I'm our arts facilitator. And I am actually implementing a music program throughout all of the elementary schools in our board.
That is very cool. I took voice lessons for about 2 years, and
Oh,
then my
great.
voice started changing, and I used that as an excuse to quit because I got teased so much about it when I was growing up. So
Oh, that's too bad.
yeah, it is. I wish I kind of kept going with it. My dad says I have a good singing voice, but I think he's biased. I like what you say about nature and respecting nature because that is one thing that absolutely drives me nuts is seeing garbage and stuff like
Yes.
that. And we watched
Yes.
a Survivor show, not like the crappy Survivor that's
Right.
usually on, but one by Bear Grylls, I think it is, and so he actually dropped people off, and they were their own camera people, and they had to survive in the wilderness on these remote islands. But a lot of their stuff that they used to survive was just garbage that was just piled up on the shores, and I'm like, that is
Uh,
disgusting.
yes,
It,
definitely.
I think it's a travesty what we do to this world that God has given us. I do think we
Exactly.
need a lot more respect for our environment and nature.
Yes, definitely.
I really.
Yeah.
Why don't you share your testimony with us as well? How did you come to know Christ?
I grew up going to church with my family. And I think that's actually where I sort of found my love of music. I loved being able to sing hymns. And I remember being sometimes a little bit sad because when I was young, I would have to leave, the main church area and then go down for Sunday school,
Mm.
which was amazing. But then there weren't as many, I was going to like miss the hymns.
Oh, yeah.
But then afterwards, I was able to join the choir, and that made me very happy to be able to sing and sort of worship God in that way. Because to me, I feel like music is a way of worship.
Yeah, definitely. Very importantly.
Yeah, right. And so something that's very interesting to me, I think, is that I feel as though my being able to compose music is a gift from God. And I feel like that He's provided that for me, and He wants me to be able to share it with people in the world so that, maybe it's that song that if they're feeling a certain way that they can go to and feel better and feel, like peace and calm uh, and and just feel differently about, what might be happening in their lives. And so then on top of my own gift, I like to talk to people about their gifts, and it gives them sort of an opportunity to share what they might feel is their gift. And sadly, I feel like we have quite a few people in the world who might be not recognizing their purpose.
Mhm.
And so I think if we talk about our gifts and share our gifts, that perhaps they can look at themselves and think, oh, I do have a gift to share. And maybe that'll lead them to God as well.
Yeah, God talks about everybody having a gift that they're given. Some people are given multiple ones,
Yes,
and,
exactly.
and we're supposed to use those for God, and
Right.
that's definitely important for us to recognize. And I think churches don't speak on that quite enough. I don't think
Yeah,
they
I agree.
recognize.
Yeah, my mom used to say, "Oh dear, don't hide your light under a bushel."
Yeah.
And so I finally started listening to that.
Yeah. Yeah. I know I've got, one of mine is the gift of prophecy. I have like visions and stuff like that.
Oh, amazing.
And I have a journal that I write them down. Some of them have been related to other people, and I've actually spoke to them about it, and they're like, "Oh, that totally answers exactly what I was needing." I'm like, it just tells me, like, thank you, God. Like, some of them are other
Right.
ones that are more like end times ones, and then those ones just
Mm.
are freak me out, and I'm like, really makes me want to do exactly what I'm doing. It kind of really drove in that I need to get God's word out and be a tool for the Holy Spirit, because
Right.
I don't want anybody I know to experience that, or even people I don't know to experience that, because it's scary, and well, none of us know when that time's coming.
Yeah, exactly.
So what inspired you to really follow your passion of piano and music and composing? What really was the inspiration for that for you?
I have a former grade 7 and 8 teacher, Mr. Barry, and a few years ago, I was in my hometown and ran into him and remembered that he had this recording studio in his home on this beautiful lake that's in my hometown. And I had said, "Oh, so I have this a couple of pieces and their piano parts, and I would like to just record them and see how they sound." So I went to visit him, and I recorded the piano piece. And then he said to me, "Oh, have you ever thought about adding harmony?" And so he played sort of a few notes in my first piece. And of course, it sounded beautifully. And then, so I started trying it, and I was like doing it on the spot. I was adding these melodies into my
Cool.
composition, and my mind was kind of like blown. And I just instantly felt such joy in what was happening. So then I just felt encouraged to continue writing. And so just thinking about God, like sometimes I wake up in the morning and there's a melody going around in my head. And so I sit down at the piano, and sure enough, it just starts coming to me, and I'm able to keep going. And now, thanks to my former teacher, I'm able to layer other parts and generally add in cello, because I think it's such a soulful instrument.
Mhm.
And I used to play the flute, or do play the flute, so I add that in as well, and other instruments. But yeah, definitely encouraged by a former teacher.
Yeah, that is really cool. I know, one of the movies that is one of my favorites is August Rush. I absolutely
Oh yes,
love just the way he plays guitar. Like, my son
yes.
watched that. My son's like, because he wants to learn guitar, so he's like, "Oh," he said, "that would be so cool to play like that." I'm like, I started doing it, and my son's like, "You can do that?" I'm just like, "Yeah, it's not anything good." Trust me, it's nothing good. It's just me showing you that's how he does it. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, that's a fabulous movie.
yeah, well, it's got a good storyline to it too, but it also really
Yes.
just that music. And I'm like, that music is such a good lesson about God, where the line where he
Mm,
says the music is all around us, you just have to listen. And I'm like, the
yes.
same with God. God is all around us. We just have to listen.
Yes.
And I'm like that. I still want to do a devotion on that. Like, so occasionally I write my own, and I'm like, that is one I want to kind of do a devotion on when I get time. Because I'm like, that's just such a great quote.
Isn't it? Yeah.
And it can apply to our Christian lives so much, in terms of our own faith and belief. And too many people don't stop to take a look at what's around them and think
Mhm.
about, how creative and wonderful our God is.
Yes,
'Cause
definitely.
he's amazing.
Right.
So being a woman of faith, has that been a challenge in the musical world for you, or has that been more of a blessing for you and a good tool?
It's been an amazing tool, because through sort of a series of coincidences, not that there are any, but so I had met whom I was speaking about, my former teacher, And then through a friend who was very ill with cancer, she and I were speaking, and she was talking about her son who was recording at the studio about an hour and a half from me, and during COVID, because my former teacher, who is older now, he was not interested in having anybody to his home during COVID. So this friend of mine was mentioning this other studio that might be available that her son was going to. And so I reached out to Adam Fair, his name is, at Villa Sound Recording Studio in Singhampton, and he was more than willing to have me come in and do some more recording. And so he's been fabulous too. He's very, he's just so good at what he does. And he's on top of the music recording, he also does video recording. So in his backyard, which is beautiful, it has a nice, beautiful barn setting. In the wintertime, we were actually able to record a couple of my latest pieces. And the snow was just falling. They're like falling perfectly. And anyway, so that was lovely. And then another connection that I made was through my school, through the board where I work. This band had reached out and they wanted to donate money. They wanted to give back to the school board where they had grew up in. And I had spoken to Michael Jack, and he's also into recording and mixing and has done work with major people all over the world, musicians. And so then he put me in contact with Michael Stover, so of MTS Management. And so I just sort of feel like all of these, connections sort of come, straight from God. So I feel like I'm fully blessed. And then now I'm speaking with you through Michael, and here we are. So it has not been challenging to me at all. It's been such a blessing.
Yeah, and Michael's such a hard worker. That man is very busy. I have a lot of respect for him. Yes. So you are also on the school board. What has that experience been like for you, being on the school board and being an arts facilitator?
It's again, I just feel completely blessed. I have such a wonderful job. I'm able to sort of run and organize and develop professional development for teachers. So I get to work with teachers and help and support them in teaching music, and looking at different strategies that they can use in the classroom. And some of them don't really have much of a background in music. So imagine, it's like a whole other language.
Yeah, it is.
So so I pray and please help me to find the right sort of things and strategies to show these teachers to help them support students in their classes, because I affect a great deal of students right across our board, as well as teachers. But I also work with very musician teachers. They are, very talented and very blessed, and they do great things in their classes with their students. So it's been a wonderful experience to work with all of them and to support students.
So what kind of program were you developing with the music education?
Well, previous to what we're doing now, sometimes music classes would just be students maybe watching a YouTube video and doing some lip syncing and things like that. So there wasn't really the focus on learning the elements of music, for example, and working through the creative process and the critical analysis process. And so now we're creating lesson plans for teachers to use in the class to ensure that they're meeting all of the curriculum expectations.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and allowing students to compose their own music or create and record and so on.
Yeah, I'm hoping someday my kids will be able to put music to some of the stuff that I do, and maybe we can work together with that, because I think they're both very gifted, and I think that'd be really cool to be able to work with my kids on that. So
yes, definitely.
Respect for what you do there. And how have you seen God at work in all these areas of your life?
Like, as I said, when I'm in the moment in particular, if I'm with a group of teachers, I always they don't even know this, I pre-bless all of us. Oh, yeah. Quietly. And it's interesting because each session is so remarkably different. Like sometimes the teachers have different needs on Monday than they do on Thursday. But I feel like God sort of enables me to recognize that and then know what tools to bring forward for them
Oh,
to support them
awesome.
in the classroom. Yeah.
So, what about your latest album, Anticipation? How did that all kind of come together and formulate into this album that you've put out?
Well, talk about sort of a long time happening. I wrote one of the pieces when I was about 11.
Oh, cool.
And so I was busy, right? With I was a gymnast, so I was busy in sports, and then I went to university, and I was busy studying, and so on. And then I actually worked in the business world for quite a few years before I actually started teaching in school, and so that kind of delayed my ability to, I guess, record until finally, not all that long ago, when I had this opportunity with my former teacher I was
Yeah.
speaking about. Then it all sort of came together. Okay, I'm going to do some recording and see how this goes. And so I had been writing some pieces throughout those years, but then kind of during COVID, I just I was very inspired, and I had more time at home, and began to write more and more and add more layers into my music, and then ended up recording the album and sharing it. So then also, as I said, I work with many music teachers. So a few of them were playing the other parts in my pieces, and we got to play together, which just makes me, I'm like so full of joy for that to happen.
They were probably pretty
I have
excited
all,
too.
yeah, definitely. It's been wonderful to be able to do that. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's
a
kind of been like a long process.
yeah. I always love hearing the backstories behind some of these things. It's just it's amazing to see all the work that goes into it, and sometimes it's just coincidence or circumstance that just happen to fall into place or for these things.
Yes.
And it
Right.
sounds like a lot of
Yeah.
that for you.
Yeah, I should mention too that I, through another connection, I was able to meet Harvey, and he's 91 now, but he had this beautiful baby grand piano. It's actually a quarter granite. It's a Chickering, and it was made in, I think, 1879.
Oh,
And
nice.
so Harvey, he found this beautiful piece in a barn somewhere. And so he purchased it and was able to have it completely refurbished. And then he taught private piano lessons for years and years. And then as he became older, he realized that he couldn't, teach like he used to. And so through this common friend, I was able to purchase the piano from Harvey, and it's in my home now. And I become really good friends with Harvey and Ruth, and they're also very they're Christians. And so the interesting thing is, I feel like this piano is very blessed, and I feel like it's a gift as well, and it's somewhat magical to me, because when I sit down again with these sort of melodies flowing through my mind, and it just kind of happens on this piano. So I always say it's a magical piano.
I love antiques. I absolutely love
Yeah, right.
antiques. I think they're beautiful. And
Mhm.
my sister-in-law
Yes,
would be very, very jealous because she actually has her she teaches piano out of her home, and
lovely.
she knows piano very, very, very well. She's
Mhm.
studied all of her courses and all that up in there. But she's always wanted
Oh, yeah,
always wanted that grand piano. So yeah, she would she'd be very jealous.
right. Yeah, I feel pretty blessed.
Yeah, I imagine. So to all the young classical musicians out there, what's one piece of advice you'd leave them with?
That it's worth it, that all of that hard work and all of those scales over and over again, and all of that skill and drill kind of work at the time, can be frustrating, and it doesn't really seem, like you're going to do anything with it. But um, then all of a sudden it all comes together, and you're playing beautifully, and you enjoy what you're playing, and then you're thankful for all of that time.
Yeah, that's something I wish I'd learned growing up was more the music side of things, and that I'd not decided to go other ways. But
Right.
is there any place online where people can find you and your music?
Yes, bonniemilne.com. And then all of the other social media platforms, it's at Bonnie Milne Music. So like Instagram and Facebook. I have TikTok. I haven't done much with it yet, but I will.
I'm on TikTok too, but I've only done like one video.
Right, exactly. And then Twitter is at B Milne Music.
Email. Okay. I'll put a link to your website in the description of the video.
Thank
And
you.
I will try to tag you in the post. It doesn't always let me tag everybody the way it's supposed to, but I will
Right.
try to tag you in the post when I
Yeah, I
post
would
these things
appreciate that.
online.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on here. Is there any final thoughts that you'd like to share with people before we sign off?
If you are on my website, including you, Tony, if you would like to share your gift, please do so because there's a platform for that. And I would very much appreciate it.
Awesome. I will. I'll definitely have to check that out a little bit more. I was listening to some of your music beforehand, as I do with all my interview people. Um, you're very, very talented. So
Oh, thank you. I appreciate
thanks for
that.
sharing your gifts with us and sharing your testimony with us today.
Oh, thank you.
Well, I have just been blessed with so many people who are requesting to be on the show, and I'm impressed with how many people want to share their testimonies or what they're doing for the Lord right now. If I haven't got back to you, I promise I will get back to you. I look forward to speaking with each of you and interviewing you, and keep tuning into the show. There's lots of new people that are coming on here, and if you're considering wanting to come on the show, just shoot me an email at tpeters745@gmail.com, and I will get back to you.